How to escape the poverty mindset and live on an extremely low income. Here's something that'll make you uncomfortable. You don't need more money to live better. You need better thinking. But nobody wants to hear that because we've been trained like lab rats to believe comfort comes from income, not intelligence. That's the first lie that keeps people broke. And it's the most dangerous one. You cannot outspend stupidity. Doesn't matter how much you earn, if you can't control your impulses, you'll still end up drowning in debt. Only difference is, now you'll have nicer furniture, while you're losing sleep over payments you can't afford. I've watched this pattern repeat itself for decades. Intelligent people, good jobs, respectable salaries, still living check to check like they're making minimum wage. Not because they're unlucky, because they refuse to think rationally about money. They can't say no to the noise of consumption, and modern culture has turned that noise into a roar you can't escape. Advertisers have convinced you that living below your means is deprivation, that spending less is punishment, that being frugal is being cheap. They're lying to you, and you're paying them for the privilege. If this is already cutting close, hit subscribe right now, because what comes next is going to challenge everything you believe about money and comfort. Living below your means isn't deprivation, it's liberation. When your expenses are low, you control your time. When your obligations are small, you can walk away from situations that don't serve you. That's actual freedom. But most people don't want freedom. They want approval. They'd rather look successful than be successful. And they'll trade decades of peace just to impress people who couldn't care less about them. I see this pattern everywhere. People chasing the next raise, the next promotion, the bigger house, the nicer car, thinking more money will fix what bad thinking created. It never does. You can't solve behavioral problems with salary increases. You just scale your mistakes at a higher income bracket. Think about it. If you can't manage $1,000 wisely, what makes you think you'll suddenly be brilliant with $10,000? If you're broke on $50,000 a year, you'll be just as broke at $200,000. Only now you'll have better clothes and a luxury vehicle to distract you from the fact that the math still doesn't work. The numbers don't care about your feelings. They just compound your decisions, good or bad. Real quick, if this is making too much sense, tap that like button. You're seeing something most people spend their whole lives avoiding. Here's what most people completely miss. The amount you actually need to live comfortably is way less than you think. Because comfort isn't a product of income, it's a byproduct of clear thinking. You don't have to drown in credit card debt. You don't have to buy things you forgot you wanted 3 weeks later. You don't need to perform success for strangers. You just need to stop pretending arithmetic doesn't apply to you. The formula for wealth is stupidly simple. Spend less than you earn. Invest what's left. Repeat for a very long time. That's it. That's the whole game. But simple doesn't mean easy, because it requires something most people won't do: discipline. And discipline isn't trendy. The world sells excitement, not prudence. You'll never see a commercial telling you to buy nothing and stay solvent. There's no profit in teaching you to think clearly. So you have to train yourself. Value peace over pleasure, clarity over clutter, control over convenience. If you want a comfortable life, Start by keeping your bills low, because once your bills rise, your freedom falls. Every subscription you forgot about, every loan payment that auto-drafts, every unnecessary expense you normalized, that's a chain around your neck, and the weight adds up. If you can't sleep well unless your paycheck hits on Friday, you're not living freely. You're renting peace of mind. And rented peace always expires. Let me tell you about what I call the obligation factory. Modern life is designed to manufacture expenses. You start small, a streaming service, a car payment, then a bigger place because you deserve it, right? Then furniture for the bigger place, insurance for the nicer car, gadgets for the upgraded lifestyle. Until one morning you wake up and realize you're working just to feed a machine you built yourself. It's a quiet trap. You don't notice it tightening because every addition feels reasonable in isolation. But reasonable expenses added together become ruinous. The faster you run on this treadmill, the faster it spins. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The only way to win is to step off entirely. How? Deliberate simplicity. Not deprivation, clarity. Start by writing down every single thing you owe each month, every recurring charge, every automatic payment you set up and forgot existed. Then ask yourself one brutal question. If I lost my income tomorrow, how long could I survive without panic? Most people can't make it a month. That's not living. That's gambling with your stability. The wealthy think completely differently. They build what gets called a margin of safety. They design their lives to survive long periods of drought. And the first step to building that margin isn't earning more, it's owing less. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Send it right now while you're thinking about it. Lower expenses mean higher endurance. It gives you time, options, the ability to say no when life gets stupid. And life gets stupid regularly. Count on it. I watched people spend like they were immortal when I was young. They thought money was infinite and consequences were optional. Now I see their older versions, bitter, exhausted, still making payments on lives they no longer even enjoy. When you attach your happiness to consumption, it expires as fast as your phone's battery. When you attach it to independence, it compounds quietly in the background. Keeping bills low does more than save money. It protects your sanity. It removes anxiety from your mornings. You stop waking up worried about interest rates or layoffs or whether the market's crashing today. You've already built a smaller, smarter ship that can weather any storm. That's what financial intelligence actually looks like. Not fancy, not impressive, just resilient. People ask how to get rich. Wrong question. Start by not acting broke. And acting broke doesn't mean earning less. It means needing less. Every bill you don't have is freedom you gained back. Every fixed payment you avoid is a promise you didn't make to work harder just to stand still. Most people call this normal. They think budgeting is restriction. But budgeting is self-respect. It's you telling your future self, I'm not going to destroy you for temporary comfort today. Just tracking what you spend changes how you behave. Because once you see the leak, you start fixing it. You can't fix what you refuse to measure. That's why even a basic written list, income minus expenses, is more powerful than any app. It forces you to face numbers, not excuses. And once you see clearly, you start cutting ruthlessly. Cancel subscriptions you forgot existed. Pay down high-interest debt aggressively. Stop upgrading things that work perfectly fine. And for the love of reason, don't treat sales as savings. A discount on something you don't need is still waste. Just waste with better marketing. Comment below if you're realizing how many expenses you're carrying that serve no purpose. Let me know what you're cutting first. The goal isn't misery. It's breathing room. Making sure one unexpected car repair doesn't collapse your entire financial plan. Because if one surprise expense can destroy you, that's not a surprise, that's a design flaw. And you designed it by saying yes to too many things that seemed small at the time. Keeping bills low isn't just about money, it's about mental space. When your fixed costs are small, you can take smart risks. You can invest aggressively. You can live calmly because you're not one missed paycheck away from catastrophe. When your costs are massive, you're trapped. You become a prisoner to the next direct deposit, no matter how large it is. I've met professionals who make six figures and can't quit jobs they despise, not because they lack income, because they have too many obligations. They bought themselves golden handcuffs, shiny, expensive, suffocating. Remember this, the goal is freedom, not luxury. And the path to freedom starts with subtraction, not addition. If you can lower your monthly burn rate, you automatically raise your peace of mind. Every dollar you don't owe is a dollar that compounds for you instead of against you. Every bill you dodge is another brick in the wall, protecting your independence. Now let's talk about what most people get completely backwards. They think wealth is about how much you make. It's not. It's about how much you keep. You cannot outspend stupidity. I'll say it again because it needs repeating until it sinks in. If you earn $100,000 and spend $100,000, you're not wealthy. You're just temporarily solvent. That's why the smartest people I know live below their means, not at them. When I was young, I saw a pattern that never changed. The janitor who saved 15% of every paycheck retired with dignity. The executive who spent 110% of every paycheck retired with regret. What matters is the gap between income and expenses. That gap is your actual wealth. That's your margin of safety for everything life throws at you. It's what allows you to invest, to think clearly, to walk away from bad situations before they get worse. If your lifestyle inflates every time your salary increases, you're just running faster on the same treadmill going nowhere. People call it upgrading their life. I call it upgrading their stress level. Save this video. You'll want to come back to it when temptation hits. The truth is harsh. You will never have enough if you can't be satisfied with enough. Every dollar you overspend buys a temporary dopamine hit and a permanent obligation. You become addicted to a standard of living that was never actually yours. You're just renting it with future suffering. Here's a principle that changed how I think about everything. The first rule of compounding is never interrupt it unnecessarily. That doesn't just apply to investments. It applies to behavior. If you constantly interrupt your savings by chasing the next shiny purchase, compounding never gets a chance to work its magic. And compounding is the closest thing to magic that exists in finance, if you give it time. Simple rule that works at any income level. Live on 70% of what you make, save 30%. Do it long enough, and you'll be shocked at what happens. Because small surpluses, compounded over decades, destroy large paychecks wasted in months, every single time. No exceptions. Living below your means doesn't mean suffering. It means designing life intelligently. Own fewer, better things. Keep obligations light. Have room to breathe and think. I know people who built fortunes by simply not being foolish. They weren't geniuses. They were consistent. They knew comfort built on debt isn't comfort. It's camouflage. Most people chase financial freedom like it's a lottery ticket, but freedom is just the result of discipline repeated quietly over many years. It's not a prize, it's a habit. When you live below your means, something strange happens. You stop caring about keeping up. You stop comparing. You stop needing validation from strangers. That's when compounding starts working for you instead of against you. Every dollar you save is a soldier fighting for your independence. Every impulse purchase is a deserter. Most people keep sending their soldiers to die in wars of vanity. The irony is, once you stop living for appearances, life gets better. Less clutter, less stress, more peace. You realize happiness isn't consumption. It's control. You'll hear people say you only live once, so spend it all. That's idiotic. Because if you spend it all, you only live once before going broke. The smarter version is you only live once, so live with some foresight. Every money decision is really a time decision. Spend recklessly and you trade future years for present moments. Spend wisely, and you buy back decades of calm. Here's a test. If you lost your income today, how many months could you survive? If the answer is 0, you don't own your lifestyle. It owns you. Living below your means builds what gets called optionality. It lets you take smart risks, invest when others can't, or simply rest without terror. That's how you make sure the game doesn't end before you're ready. Most people believe success buys security. It doesn't. Only restraint does. The best investors, the happiest retirees, the calmest people I know, all practice restraint like it's their religion. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. You can't compound what you don't save, and you can't save if you can't control yourself. So before you chase the next opportunity or the next promotion or the next scheme, look at your habits. If your expenses rise every time your income does, you're not progressing, you're inflating. And sooner or later, bubbles burst. The smartest move isn't earning another dollar. It's mastering the urge to spend the one you already have. If you do that long enough, wealth becomes inevitable. Not because you found a shortcut, because you stopped doing stupid things. Now here's where most people fail the intelligence test. Unexpected money, bonuses, tax refunds, overtime, inheritance. That's the moment people reveal whether they have financial maturity or financial delusion. They call it extra money, like it's free. So they spend it like it's free. And within weeks, it's gone, and they can't even remember what they bought. Let me be direct. How you handle unexpected money tells me everything about your financial future. If you waste it, you're impulsive. If you deploy it strategically, you're building wealth. When you get more than usual, don't rush to reward yourself. Pause. Think. Ask one question. What will this money do for me in 5 years? If the answer is nothing, you're about to commit a crime against your future self. You don't need brilliance to build wealth. You just need to stop being reckless when opportunity arrives. I've watched people turn small windfalls into lifelong leverage. They didn't celebrate with vacations or toys. They paid off debt, built emergency reserves, bought assets that worked while they slept. Meanwhile, others blew the same amount on instant gratification and then wondered why nothing ever changed. Luck is wasted on the undisciplined. Every dollar you treat with intention compounds. Every dollar spent carelessly disappears and teaches you nothing. That's why I tell people, when extra money shows up, act like it won't come again, because often it won't. If you don't assign it a job immediately, it will find trouble. And money loves trouble. Plan before it arrives. Know exactly what you'll do. 50% to investments, 30% to debt elimination, 20% to life. Simple, rational. No emotion involved. Emotion destroys financial progress. People get a taste of success and immediately want to advertise it. They forget quiet money compounds. Loud money evaporates. You don't need monk-level discipline. You just need strategist-level thinking. Because money without a plan flows toward stupidity every time. If this is giving you clarity on where you've been going wrong, comment below. What's one financial mistake you're ready to stop making? When you plan where extra money goes, you remove randomness from your life, and randomness ruins most people. The difference between wealth and poverty isn't opportunity. It's discipline with what looks small today. That bonus you invest might cover your expenses 20 years from now. That refund used to eliminate debt might save you decades of interest. That unexpected check put into an index fund instead of a weekend trip might buy you freedom when everyone else is still grinding. People underestimate how fast discipline compounds. They think it's just a few $100s, but a few hundred deployed wisely and repeatedly becomes independence faster than you think. The world doesn't reward the smartest. It rewards the most consistent. Consistency looks boring until you're financially free and everyone else is still trapped. Every dollar you earn has a choice: work for you or disappear on you. If you spend it, it's gone. If you invest it, it recruits more dollars to your team. Over time, that small army becomes an empire. But most people never give their money a chance to multiply. They fire every dollar the moment it arrives. It's not markets that keep people poor. It's the absence of a plan. They don't lose money because they're unlucky. They lose it because they behave predictably badly. You don't need perfection, just intention. If you get a bonus, have a plan. If you get a refund, have a plan. If you get anything unexpected, have a plan waiting. Because the moment you start planning, you stop gambling. Let me address something uncomfortable. Shopping has become the modern religion. Open 7 days a week, multiple locations, and every message says the same thing. You deserve this. Well, cemeteries are full of people who thought they deserved things. I'm not against comfort. I'm against stupidity. And most consumer spending today is stupidity dressed up as self-care. You walk in for one item and leave with 5. You open an app just to browse and somehow bought something you'll forget about in a week. That's not bad luck. That's engineered behavior. Corporations spend billions studying how to make you click buy now. They know your psychological triggers better than you do. Every impulse purchase is their victory and your defeat. That's why I follow a rule that saved me from countless bad decisions. Never buy anything the same day you want it. Wait 24 hours minimum. If you still want it tomorrow, maybe it's worth considering. But you'll be shocked how often desire evaporates faster than logic returns. The 24-hour rule sounds simple, but it's a form of discipline, and discipline guards wealth better than anything. When you delay gratification, you take power back from systems designed to manipulate you. Because, make no mistake, debt is just consumption's hangover. Most entertainment works the same way. It's marketed as reward. You worked hard, so now you deserve to escape. But escape costs money, and escape, repeated often enough, becomes addiction. I've seen people spend half their income on experiences, concerts, dinners, events, weekends that vanish faster than receipts fade. They confuse stimulation with satisfaction. You can enjoy life without bankrupting yourself. You just have to ask, is this pleasure or compensation? Most people don't want joy. They want distraction from lives they don't control. When you fix the foundation, when you're not drowning in bills, when you're investing wisely, you don't need constant entertainment. Your life becomes peaceful enough that you're not desperate for escape. There's nothing wrong with enjoying yourself, but enjoyment without boundaries becomes erosion. So set limits. If you love dining out, plan it once a week, fully enjoyed, guilt-free, but not every night out of boredom. The trick isn't removing pleasure, it's giving it context. Pleasure should be seasoning, not the whole meal. And remember, not all entertainment is equal. Some feeds you, some empties you. A book costs $10 and can change your thinking for decades. A random night out costs $200 and leaves you with nothing but a story you'll forget. If you must spend on things that compound value. Education, health, meaningful relationships. Those returns are exponential. Everything else depreciates the moment you touch it. Impulse spending is emotional investing with guaranteed losses. Marketers target feelings, never logic. Because logic doesn't buy. Emotion does. But the older you get, the clearer it becomes. Satisfaction doesn't come from accumulation. It comes from control. From being able to look at something you could buy and choosing not to. Choosing freedom instead. Every time you resist impulse, your financial discipline strengthens. Every time you give in, you feed the weakness that keeps you trapped. Real luxury isn't what you own, it's what you can walk away from. A person who can say no lives richer than someone who says yes to everything. Save this. Share it.
This is the mindset shift that changes everything. Restraint doesn't trend on social media, but it's the foundation under every lasting fortune. Most people chase dopamine hits, not dividends. They get the rush of spending followed by the dread of statements. It's a cycle of temporary joy and permanent regret.
Break that cycle by questioning everything. Do I want this, or was I programmed to want this? Is this adding meaning, or just killing boredom? Honest answers will save you fortunes. Practice this long enough, and something strange happens. You start enjoying what you already have. You realize you didn't need more. You just needed perspective. Now let's talk about something nobody practices anymore. Research before purchase. People spend weeks researching vacations, but 5 minutes buying cars. They'll compare streaming services for an hour, but won't read one review before dropping thousands. That's not smart. That's negligent. And negligence costs more than you'll ever save. I've watched this pattern forever. People think they're saving time. What they're really doing is trading intelligence for convenience. And convenience in finance is an expensive luxury you can't afford. Every purchase is an investment decision. You're trading capital for utility. If you don't understand value, you're gambling. It's identical to buying stocks. You study fundamentals, profit margins, debt ratios, longevity. When you buy a car or an appliance or a laptop, the logic should be the same. But people don't do that. They pick what's shiny and hope for the best. Hope is a terrible financial strategy. When you skip research, you pay for ignorance twice. Once with money, again with regret. Because ignorance compounds faster than any interest rate. Products aren't equal. 2 washing machines might look identical. One lasts 10 years, the other dies in 3. Buy the cheap one twice, and congratulations, you paid more for less. That's not frugal, that's foolish. Research converts spending into strategy. It transforms impulse into intelligence. It forces you to slow down long enough to ask what you're actually buying. Most people hate that question. They don't want to think. They want to consume. But thinking protects you from traps designed for the impulsive. And in case you haven't noticed, the world is designed to trap you. Limited time offers, only 2 left. Act now before it's gone. All engineered to disable your brain. Because your brain, if you use it, ruins their business model. If you want to live intelligently, make thinking your reflex. Do homework before handing over money. Every hour of research saves hours of regret later. Building wealth isn't about finding shortcuts. It's about reading, studying, comparing, analyzing, questioning. That habit applies to everything, not just investments. Buying a home, understand property taxes, maintenance costs, resale trends. Buying a car, learn repair history, fuel efficiency, depreciation curves. If you don't understand what you're buying, don't buy it. Simple rule most ignore at their own expense. People say time is money, but ignorance costs more than patience ever will. A few hours of research might save thousands. That's a trade even fools should take. But most don't because modern life rewards speed over sense. They want instant gratification. They click before thinking, then wonder why they're broke and stressed. You don't need paranoia, just rationality. Compare options, ask questions. Look for durability, not decoration. A good purchase should make life easier, not your wallet lighter. Wealthy people don't buy cheap, they buy smart. They pay for value, not trends. That's why their possessions last, because their thinking does. When you treat every dollar as investment capital, your brain works differently. You stop asking, "Can I afford this?" and start asking, "Is this worth it?" That single question saves more money than any sale ever could. Research doesn't just save money, it builds character, patience, discipline, skepticism. The same traits that build wealth. You can't be reckless with $100 and expect to be wise with 100,000. Habits compound exactly like capital does. So before buying anything, big or small, do the boring work. Learn, compare, verify. Don't let marketing think for you, because if someone else does your thinking, they're also doing your spending. The market preys on laziness. Your defense is diligence. Now here's what separates lasting wealth from temporary comfort: maintenance. Most people are excellent at buying things, terrible at keeping them functional. They'll spend months researching the right car, then skip oil changes. Brag about home ownership, but ignore the roof until it collapses. Buy expensive clothes, but never clean them properly. That's not unlucky. That's negligent. And negligence is one of the most expensive habits that exists. Most people think wealth is accumulation. Real wealth is preservation. What's the point of earning if you can't keep what you have from falling apart? In business, it's called capital preservation. In life, it's called common sense. A well-maintained machine lasts decades. A neglected one dies early and takes your savings with it. Same with your body, your home, your relationships, your mind. Everything deteriorates without attention. Entropy is nature's default setting. Preventive care is cheaper than emergency repair in every area of existence. People ignore their vehicles until they break, their roofs until they leak, their bodies until they fail, their finances until they collapse. Then they panic and call it emergency. No, it's negligence coming due. I learned early that small maintenance costs compound positively. A $50 oil change prevents a $5,000 engine replacement. A $200 checkup prevents a $20,000 hospital stay. A single honest conversation prevents a friendship from rotting. Yet people skip all three because they're too busy. Too busy is the favorite excuse of the incompetent. They're too busy to maintain what matters, then somehow find endless time to fix what they could have easily prevented. I've seen brilliant executives run companies into the ground because they stopped checking fundamentals. And I've seen individuals go broke for the exact same reason. The principle doesn't change. Neglect compounds faster than interest ever will. Your job isn't constantly chasing new things. It's making sure old ones keep working. In investing, we maintain discipline. In life, we maintain systems. Same muscle, you don't build wealth chasing every opportunity. You build it by keeping what's already working in top condition. Not exciting, not glamorous, but profitable. Because maintenance is care translated into time. and the universe rewards care. Take your home. Most treat it like decoration instead of machinery. A leaky faucet becomes mold. Mold becomes renovation. Renovation becomes debt. Fix the faucet when it starts, and you still have savings. Or take your body, the only machine you'll own that can't be replaced. But people treat it worse than their cars. Refuel with garbage. Skip all maintenance. Then act shocked when it breaks down. They say health is wealth. True. But they forget wealth without health is just numbers on a screen. Even your mind needs maintenance. Read, reflect, relearn. Otherwise, it rusts. And rusted thinking costs more than any broken appliance ever could. Don't forget reputation either, another asset requiring constant care. One stupid decision can destroy decades of credibility. Reputation, like machinery, must be protected from corrosion by consistency. Maintenance in every sense is humility. It's admitting things decay, and you're not above that law. Only fools believe success makes them invincible. Wise people know it just gives them more to protect. When you maintain something, you're saying the cost of replacement matters more than the inconvenience of prevention. That's rational thinking. And here's the hidden benefit. Maintenance builds discipline. The mindset that changes oil on schedule also pays taxes early, rebalances portfolios, checks assumptions before they ruin you. If you're sloppy in one area, you'll be sloppy everywhere. Habits don't compartmentalize, they replicate. So treat maintenance as philosophy, not chore. Maintaining what you have is the only way to deserve more. Finally, let me address the heart of rational living. Prioritization. If you try buying everything, you'll eventually own nothing that matters. Money is finite. Attention is finite. Time is finite. The biggest mistake people make is pretending otherwise. That's why prioritization isn't optional. It's survival. You can't have everything, but you can have what's important. Problem is, most people never ask what that actually is. They buy what others admire, not what they value. Chase comfort without clarity. And when everything becomes a priority, nothing really is. I've seen millionaires and minimum wage workers make identical mistakes, confusing spending with living, thinking more things fill the emptiness of not knowing what matters. It doesn't. It amplifies the noise. Let me tell you something unpopular. A comfortable life isn't built by adding. It's built by subtracting. Subtract the unnecessary. Subtract the envy. Subtract the noise. What remains is where peace lives. You don't need to eliminate joy. You need to rank it. There's a difference between nice and necessary, between pleasure and priority. Sit down, write it out. 5 things that genuinely improve your life. Not what you think you should have, what actually makes you calmer, clearer, freer when you have it. That's your compass. Everything else is distraction. For one person, it's family time. For another, it's solitude. For someone else, it's books, or health, or creative work. The list doesn't matter. The clarity does. Because once you know your top 5, every financial decision gets easier. You stop asking if you can afford something. You start asking if it deserves space in your life. When you prioritize, you reclaim control. You stop living reactively. Stop buying from boredom or insecurity. You start spending like an investor, allocating capital toward what compounds happiness. Yes, happiness can compound. If you spend on what actually matters, returns multiply over time. Good education compounds. Good health compounds. Meaningful relationships compound. Everything else depreciates faster than your latest device. So before spending anything, pause and ask, will this matter to me in 5 years? If the answer is no, it's probably waste. This thinking might sound cold. It's not. It's clarity. And clarity is the foundation of peace. Even rich people need prioritization. In fact, they need it more because options multiply confusion. The poor waste because they have too little. The rich waste because they have too much. In both cases, the disease is identical: lack of focus. If you can learn to prioritize on low income, you'll be unstoppable when you have more. Because money doesn't change behavior, it amplifies it. Reckless when broke means catastrophic when wealthy. That's why learning to live on less is training. You're teaching yourself to think, to choose, to differentiate. That's real intelligence, not IQ, but judgment. When you spend deliberately, you also appreciate deliberately. Gratitude grows where chaos used to live. You stop needing constant novelty to feel alive. You start valuing quiet satisfaction of having enough. Enough is the dividing line between wealth and misery. You cross it the moment you realize more isn't better. Better is better. I've met plenty of people with less money than me, but very few with less worry. That's because money doesn't eliminate worry. Discipline does. A low-income life lived intelligently is more peaceful than a high-income life lived stupidly. It's clearer, simpler, freer. You don't wake up panicking about payments or layoffs. You wake up knowing you're in control because you chose simplicity over spectacle. Spend on what's valuable to you, not what signals value to others. If you enjoy good meals, budget for them. If you love books, buy them. If you crave experiences, plan them carefully. But do it consciously, not because advertising told you what happiness should look like. This is the paradox. The less you need, the richer you become. Because real wealth is freedom from need. People who master money aren't chasing more. They're the ones who learned when enough is enough. So if you want to live well on low income, don't think smaller, think clearer. Ask yourself daily, what do I actually value? What can I live without? What will still matter when the noise fades? Answer honestly, and you'll never feel poor again. Because the richest person in the world isn't the one with the most. It's the one who can say with complete calm, I already have enough. That's freedom. That's wealth. That's the life worth living. If this video gave you permission to think differently about money and life, don't let it end here. Subscribe so we can keep going deeper. This is what this space is for. Real talk about building actual wealth through thinking clearly. Not chasing shortcuts, not trends, not gimmicks. Just timeless principles that work regardless of income. And if something here shifted how you see your situation, let me know in the comments. Tell me what clicked. Tell me what you're going to do differently starting today. You're not alone in this, and knowing that matters more than you think. You're smarter and more capable than your bank balance suggests. Now prove it.